I could go into the technical aspects about this, but I think any time that you're doing a project or a planning effort or a regional project, if you don't take any other message home, form an initiative. And I'm going to show you how important that is to bring your group of partners together, stakeholders, environmental groups, all working towards a common cause. The Charlotte Harbor Flatwoods is a 90 square mile effort. This is kind of a high level view. There's 5 watersheds. This shows you a little closer. In here, the 5 watersheds, Yucca Pens, Durden, Greenwell, Gator, Slough, Longview. The really neat thing about this project is one of the few initiatives that I worked in where there's actually a intermovement of district waters. The water starts in the South Florida Water Management District. It flows in a southwest fashion down through the Southwest Florida Water Management District and then back into the South Florida Water Management. Historically, the water came from the north and flowed in a southwest manner down through this area. And over the years, there were a number of berms and other impediments to surface water flows. I-75 through this area. A number of berms and pumps and other structures that went in before ERP permitting. You also had the railroad through this area. And what happens with the water now is that water actually hits these impediments, flows north into Webb Lake, forces itself down into Gator Slough here. Large amount of water, blows out the estuary, too much fresh water. Some of that water also will stack up on the county line, Charlotte-Lee County, and come down and cause the flooding that you've seen on TV and the emergency declaration for North Fort Myers. So these impediments have had a huge impact on surface water flows. I think one of the keys to this project is the amount of land that's in public ownership. The first thing I do when I'm going to do an initiative, I kind of go out and do a planning effort, and I start looking at where are our opportunities, what type of public land exists in the watershed. So with that, we look at Fish and Wildlife. They own the Cecil-Webb Babcock Wildlife Management Area, Yucca Pens. We got conservation lands here. Those are all opportunities. That's initial planning for these types of initiatives. Secondly, I look for linear connections, a power line, a railroad line, I-75. And what's going on with I-75 right now? Construction. Phase 1 was from Naples up to the Caloosahatchee River. Phase 2 is from the Caloosahatchee River to Tucker's Grade, and then there's a Phase 3. Phase 2, we were looking at FDOT coming in and just building what meets our criteria, but is it really outside the box thinking, putting in postage stamps, ponds in these areas where the water really doesn't flow? What if we looked at it outside the box and said, hey, instead of building these postage stamp ponds, what if we take and use that money in constructing those facilities and do something in the basin? So we've been working with FDOT, who's been a great project. Again, it's linking a regional effort with regional projects in the area. It's pulling all the resources together, whether it's federal funding, people working together, and you'll hear more about that as I go along. So we're actually looking at mitigation areas and using some of that mitigation credit and taking away some of the construction costs, which saves the taxpayers money, and we're getting things done within the watershed. Again, I talked about the alterations, I-75, US 41, the railroads, drainage canals, agricultural improvements, and residential development. There were a number of studies in this area over the years, going back to '83. This isn't something that just happened yesterday. These issues have been out there for 20 and 30 years. So what we're trying to do now is come in a group and try to rectify some of those issues. And with that, we kind of compiled all the plans, and in 2010, we finished the Yucca Pen's Hydrologic Restoration Plan. It was kind of taking all the best parts of those plans and putting them together. Again, the opportunities, public ownership. Fish and Wildlife's a major partner in this. It also filled out an application for restore funding for $15 million. It scored very high. This is a significant regional project. I-75 improvements, FDOT partnership, you're going to hear about that. They've been key partners in this. And the key to this is bringing everybody in, working together, and forming partnerships and consensus. Look at the number of groups when we first started. We brought everybody in. You got to bring them in at the beginning, because if you wait till the end, you bring other groups in, and there's going to be hurdles and obstacles. So we brought everybody in. And it's like feuding, fighting, and fussing. Everybody's got their own viewpoints. Everybody's got the agendas. But it's all good. It's bringing everybody together. And at first, it was almost like a fist fight. But you work through that. And as people get working together, you'll see the things that can be accomplished as a team. And again, everybody working together in a consensus mode. You know, South Florida Water Management, Southwest Florida Water Management, the counties, City of Cape Coral, aquatic preserves, the state park. You can see how everybody would have different viewpoints and how this all fits together. Now we're one happy family. We're moving forward. Initially, we had funding. This is kind of jumpstart the project. We did the Yucca Pen's Hydrologic Restoration Plan. That was the kickoff. We did the Yucca Pen's Preserve Restoration with Kathy Olson in 2020. And what that was ATV ditches. We went out there and looked at I always hear about ATV impacts. So what can the ATV do? Well, we were out the site looking at doing a project, and this water is just pouring off the site. And I asked Kathy, I go, what creek is that? She goes, that's ATV impact. I'm like, wow, okay, I didn't know that. So we did a trial project there, ditch plugging project, very successful. And in this area, there's a lot of ATV trails. So that's been one of the things we're attacking, is trying to hold that water on the landscape. We did work with Fish and Wildlife on the design and permitting of another ditch plug project. And then something else that's really funny, putting the pieces of the puzzle. Some of this water actually goes through Cape Coral. And then in the northwest quadrant of Cape Coral, there's tidal creeks. And we need to preserve those tidal creeks. So we funded a stormwater project. So stormwater master planning also comes into this. Project objectives, sheet flow restoration. We want to restore more natural flows and balance those flows to Charlotte Harbor. Always water quality improvement. Groundwater recharge. We want to reduce high water, flooding, enhancement of fish and wildlife. And again, when you're looking for funding, the more these types of components you can put in there, passive recreation, anything like that, it's going to help you bring funding into your project. And again, we don't ever have enough money for what we want to get done. So we're always looking for funding. This is kind of a unique success story. This area didn't really have a lot of data, so we're like, we have no money now. Our budgets have been cut. How are we as a team going to go out and get this baseline data? So we started talking. FDOT said, hey, we have a little bit of money. We can put some staff gauges in with USGS. DEP came forward and said, hey, we could do some grab sampling for water quality. We also had some Lee County monitoring here in the southwest, in this area, where they already, in the southeast, where they were already monitoring. And then USGS put in flow monitoring stations here. Fish and Wildlife go out and read all these staff gauges. So it's all of us working together and contributing what we can. We don't have a lot of money right now. The budgets have been cut. So again, you're pulling resources and you're doing more with less. That's the key to forming an initiative. This is the DEP monitoring. Do we like to have more monitoring? Yes. But this gave us the data we needed to feed into the model and start getting information. Another thing that we do too is we always keep a list of projects that are put together by the group in a priority list, and I'll get a message or I'll get an email or something from somebody, hey, do you have any projects ready to go? We got projects ready to go. Priority list. Always have projects ready to go. This shows you some ATV trails in the area. This is us looking at an area that's been impacted with drainage. You notice the sandy soils. Wow, look at that. We did some ditch plugging, 34 ditch plugs. Dispersed water management. You hear about dispersed water management. It's one of our top things we're doing at the South Florida Water Management now. And what we want to do is establish shallow water across the landscape. We want to slow those velocities and retain that water on site, which improves water quality and creates retention, and reduce off-site flows and improve hydro periods. Isn't that pretty? It really came out nice. The Zimmel Canal and Gator Slough, drainage from the water table. We had a person on our team, Mr. Bill Bile. Are you out there, Bill? Can you hold your hand up? There he is. He went out there with his borer, and he was boring, and he came back to the team, and he goes, that's impacting groundwater 1 mile to 2 miles out. That's a major impact, the drawdown that some of these canals can create. Diversions Canal to Alligator Creek and US 41 ditch. You can go right down US 41 right now and look. All that water going south into Gator Slough and then out and blowing out the estuary. That should be going out into Yucca Pens and spreading out on the landscape. That's what we're trying to do. Again, some blockages, FP&L grade and Zimmel Road, some other things that we've talked about. Our recommendations out of the initiative. We want to store and treat water east of 75. And what we hope to do is actually do some flood mitigation and storage on this area. And what we'll do is hold that water in. When the starts drying up, we'll actually feed that water out across the landscape. We'll disperse it. And so now instead of point discharges, we're putting it back on the landscape, spreading it out. We want to get in these tidal creeks. Usually when you do an initiative, a watershed, you're working at the outfalls. But because of the schedule of I-75, they need to have this road built, start building next fall. So we're up here working in the headwaters. We got to get this going because of the schedule. They got to build a road. So we're going to tie in with another group that's down here working in the tidal areas right now, and we'll link this up. Again, we'd like to be here, but we're up here in the headwaters. So we're doing some key things up here right now, and we're going to get that water right down through this area. Phase 2 projects. Again, I talked about it. Everybody contributing where they can. Linking regional projects to create a success story. Can't do it by ourselves. FDOT funded the modeling and contributed to monitoring costs. That's something totally different. You know, they're building roads. Why are they working with us in this group? We're thinking outside the box. Let's all work together in the watershed and make a difference. So that's a little bit of leap of faith. And also for our permitting people, hey, usually we're building these ponds, but now we're looking at doing something in the watershed. So it's a big leap there. USGS and DEP, monitoring support. Southwest Florida Water Management and FDOT's coming to the table. Coming up here July 1st, they're going to contribute to our alternatives analysis. Cape Coral Stormwater, they're moving ahead and doing phase 2. We helped them with phase 1, now they're on their own paying for phase 2. They see how important that is. Lee County Monitoring, they're maintaining monitoring. The Natural Resources Group with Roland Ottolini, great partners. And Yucca Pen's hydrologic restoration. We want to restore that area. Questions? And we do have Roger Kopp here. Roger, hold your hand up. Roger's the ADA. He's worked on a number of initiatives over the years with me. We've did the Lehigh Headwaters and other ones in South Lee. We worked a lot. So he's actually the one that's been brought on by FDOT to do the modeling. He does a great job, and I appreciate all you've done. Yes, sir.
I have a question about, you kind of started out talking about creating the initiative and kind of getting that together. Was there a driving factor as how that happened initially? Was there interest in water supply, or was it flooding?
I'll tell you how that happened. If you're familiar with the area, there was a Ciatis boat lift that blew out in Cape Coral. And I didn't really want to talk about this, but sometimes there's negative things that happen that create opportunities. So there was litigation with Lee County and DEP and some other environmental groups. And we sat around the table for 2 years talking about trying to resolve these issues. And we talked about coming up with environmental benefits. And we were asked to put money into an escrow account. And I'm like, we could be doing something right now. I know about initiatives 30 years. Let's do an initiative. So we started being proactive and doing projects. And they're still working through it, and everybody has their viewpoints, and I'm not saying anything's positive or negative, but we've already moved forward as a team trying to make a positive impact in that area. So that's kind of what kicked it off years ago. This has been going on about 5 or 6 years. And again, we're trying to resolve 20 or 30 years of issues that have been out there. It'll get to be a hot topic when you see the flooding, the water quality, the excessive regulatory releases from the lake, and then that goes away and we're in drought and everybody's like, oh, we're thinking about, they forget about it. But this team has become such a high-powered team, we just keep moving forward. We know what our end game is, what the goals we want to achieve, so we've made a lot of headway.
Any other questions? Judy.
Give me an easy one.
I think this is easy. One of the reasons this project is such a success is because of your leadership.
Well, thank you.
So tell us what those secrets are to making what could be a challenging discussion to a successful conclusion.
Well, I'll tell you one thing, and the people on the team always hear me say this, and you have a vision of what you want to accomplish. You have a mission, You have a mission that you want to do, and you'll always get people that'll go, well, what about, we can't do that. They're always throwing up hurdles and obstacles, which isn't a problem. It makes you think, but you got to press on regardless. You know it needs to be done. And I think, any group that you bring together, you're going to go through that storming part, and that's all the process. You need to let everybody have their input into it. You need to let everybody express themselves. They have good viewpoints. People have good ideas. We may not all think alike, but we need to get together. You need to listen. A lot of people talk about actively listen, but they really don't. You need to build consensus. You need to talk to people, and you need to bring them all to the table. And you need to be able to facilitate. And I think that's the whole thing, is realizing how passionate people can be about things. And if you look at that group of partnerships, the Aquatic Preserve and Cape Coral, and everybody's got their own thing, but once you get together and you start talking together, you start meshing. Now after 5 or 6 years, I told the group at the last quarterly meeting, I've done this all over the United States, these initiatives in Michigan. I still go up there and work at the University of Michigan. It's, get together, work together, and have a common goal. So it's been real successful. And it's the team members too.
Okay, well,
Thank
thank you
you.
so much.